Hi, friends. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for supporting this Sangha by liking and subscribing. That's all you need to do. It doesn't cost you anything but a moment, and it helps to make our Sangha more discoverable in the YouTube algorithms. So it's a bodhisattva thing to do. Thank you for doing that. I've been in this series talking about the new book that I'm working on, the Buddhist Reference. And as you know, if you've looked into Buddhism or practiced for any amount of time, there's a huge vocabulary of words across the spectrum of Shakyamuni's 50 years of teachings, let alone the scholarship since his passing away 27 centuries ago. Lots of words from different cultures, different languages, different meanings. I would have to make something the size of the Encyclopedia Britannica to capture all those words. So this Buddhist reference book is much more specific as it relates to our practice of Nichiren's elucidations and the scholarship's elucidations of Shakyamuni's teachings of the Lotus Sutra. It may go beyond the scope of that, but that's the focus. So yeah, words like karma, ancient words, but they're very relevant to our practice, our understanding of the modern practice per Nichiren of how to think and act and perform, invoke the Lotus method, yeah? But there are other words like the 3,000 realms. It's a term, right? It's a whole concept. We have to talk about that. That's an important part of our practice. I've talked about time a lot in the hundreds of videos on this channel. Don't think I really need to talk about that specifically with regard to Nichiren. Let me know your thoughts. But in that, the reason I bring up time is somebody asked a question about kalpa. And so I have to draw a line somewhere in this book, otherwise it will turn into the Encyclopedia Britannica. Kalpa is a very old term. And is it essential to know what the definition of kalpa is in our practice of Namo Myoho Renge Kyo? Here's what's essential about it. And so I put a couple of pages in the book so far. This is the outline. I may add to it. I titled this chapter "The Buddhist Hyperbole and Non-Specific Words and Terms," because a lot of these terminologies in Buddhism. Let me just read what I wrote and see if it's concise and it makes sense, okay? Number one, these are words with elaborate definitions designed to challenge our minds' comfortable expectations and parameters of thought in order to expand our understanding. Right? It's not important, and let me just read this. I know I have to keep disciplining myself to do that. Number two, words or surnames, for instance, from cultural folklore and histories of varied cultures, right? Do you need to know the genealogy of every single personage that's referenced in all the sutras? Moving on. Words are expression to foster meaning and elucidations for meaning of the lesson at hand. Some words are just tools to help you grasp what's being discussed, yeah? And you could say that about any word, but bear with me. Words of definitions and terms from the more than 50 years of Shakyamuni's teachings, life, describing various Buddhist levels of awakening, training, etc. Right? Like the 10 levels of Bodhisattva, or an Arahant, or an Arhat, or Shravaka, right? We have equivalents in Nichiren with the 10 worlds, the 10 realms, yes? So that's what's important is the meaning of these words, not the words themselves. Let me go on. These terms are defined variously with slightly differing definitions throughout the internet, not just Buddhist teachings, yeah? So then I wrote, there are a veritable dictionary of words used in Buddhist conceptual stories and lessons. Some are deliberately defined well outside the comprehension of normal day-to-day scales or indeed understanding. Other words like Johanna, wait, I missed a word here. Oh, there it is, okay. Other words like Johanna and Thri are common uses of measurement or estimation that have varied in value in their use over time and cultures. The important point here is twofold. On the one hand, Shakyamuni strongly cautions us in the Lankavatara Sutra, specifically, to fight the attraction or obsession with words and to put our attention to the meaning. That the words are together trying to explore for our insights and deeper understanding. Secondly, those words like kalpa, for instance, are words defined repeatedly with lengthy descriptions that defy our mind's ability to conceive of them in any way other than fantastical, right? The grains of sand in the Ganges. Stop there. But he goes on. Granulate these and then go off in the universe, and for every system, like galaxy or world system, whatever that is, that you pass, you drop one grain, and then you go to the next and the next and the next. And once you have expired every grain of sand from the Ganges, who knows how far that is, then you're going to take all of those world system and granulate them. Come on. Is it important to know what the number is? No, the point is, this is unfathomable. How many times do we run across those words in Buddhism? The introduction to the Lotus Sutra is called immeasurable meaning, right? The point is, Shakyamuni is addressing all humanity, not just in his time, but for the future. And he's very well aware that this is an uncalculable number. And he's also very well aware, and that's why the teachings are in the form that they are, that each and every one of those, today some 8 billion human minds, will conceive of, experience, find pathways to understanding our nature and how to move our nature toward enlightenment. It's very specific. We share a lot of traits, of course, but each of us has a very specific experience. The way we inculcate what we call knowledge, experience, how we use that, how we compare and contrast. It's samsara. So he understands that it's to try to put a number to it is a folly. It's just that's another samsaric attachment, right? So a lot of the rhetoric in Buddhism is like this. I go on here. Our words defined repeatedly, blah, 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 and that is precisely the point. These terms are not to be learned in the sense that they are not vocabulary skills. Rather, they exemplify the unfathomable or incalculable or immeasurable nature of a particular insight or concept, because it varies according to who is manifesting it. This is why I keep saying Buddhism is a personal, intimate practice. I can't give you, no matter how hard I try, take my Buddha-ness and go, here, check this out. I can't do that. No one can, right? This is why the authoritarianship of organizations and sects and all that is, it's silly, it's egotistical. This is a personal, individual practice, right? This Sangha is what Shakyamuni envisioned as the way for us to learn from one another, share with one another, to speed up the insight process. A sharing, egalitarian sharing of this mission, this attempt to awaken. But only you can do that for yourself. You can't do it for anyone else. All you can do is assist. That is bodhisattva. Make sense? So I ended this with, recall the Introduction Sutra to the Lotus Sutra, the Immeasurable Meaning Sutra. Yeah. So that's what I have included in the book as kind of I don't want it to seem like a cop-out, as we would say, because it truly isn't. To make a voluminous encyclopedia of every term, first of all, it wouldn't work, because the same word in Hinayana, the Agama Sutras, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras, all throughout the teaching life, they have changed, right? Depending on where you look, and this is one thing I should caution you about, is if you're looking for these definitions on the internet, oh, believe me, you'll find them. But you're just feeding your attachment to words rather than understanding the concept. So if you do, because I'm fond of doing that, if you do, make sure you check many different sites, right? They're not always obvious about we're Theravada and this is what Theravada says, or we're Hinayana. Well, they wouldn't say Hinayana because they consider it an insult, but Agama or BDK, different sources, right? That you know have different ideas because of their traditions on how to practice Buddhism. And see the same word, how they define the same word. What you'll find is not only disagreement, but you'll find a general sense. That might help you to disconnect from the words and come up with your own sense. And if you don't find that for yourself, then please ask me. I may, depending on the word you find, because I'm not thinking of it right now, think, oh, geez, that is a really good word, and I'll add it to this book. I'm still working on it, right? But in most cases, I can just help you understand generally what that word is about, like anatman. Anatman is generally understood. People who've studied from Nagarjuna on know that anatman is about no soul. There's no such thing as a soul. Now, there's all sorts of supporting criteria to make that statement. Impermanence, non-self, right? Other terms in Buddhism, concepts, not words, that lead you to understand what anatman means rather than atman, right? But there are some sects who avoid that altogether. They don't talk about the soul at all. Right? Or rather, they consider the soul something else. Now, that's not Buddhism, but different traditions, they want to hang on to certain things, right? Like Tibetan. And their whole Hindu concept of reincarnation. That's not Buddhism at all. But there it is, and they call themselves Buddhists. Right? So I caution you once again, and perhaps I should open in the preface of the book, that although I'm defining or talking about, discussing terms and words in this Buddhism reference, for our practice, and I do say something about that, perhaps I should have maybe not so much a disclaimer, but an advice to anyone practicing Buddhism, that the stories and the literature, old and new, of Buddhism is fascinating. It opens a whole new realms of thought. And because of that, its attraction can, like reading any book, introduce you to terms that are part and parcel of your insights and your mind changing, right, and evolving. But then we can make a false valuation, attachment to those words and terms as the source of our insight. But it's actually the context of those words and where those words appear and repeat that we begin to get a sense of the concept, what is being discussed. That is what is important. That should be primary in our study, right? When it involves reading sutras, right? Any kind of scholarship of Buddhism. So I wanted to say a few words about that because I knew this would come up. And I had to, as I say, draw a sort of a line in the sand for myself and say, okay, I'm not going to let myself turn this into a rest of my life project. Even if I did endeavor to do that, which maybe I will in another volume, I won't say that I will because there's no attraction for me, but say I changed my mind and I really want to take that on. And maybe I get some people who are into making dictionaries and do it for a living and they want to assist me, right? And then I'm more in an editorial role. Hey, it may happen. That could be a fun project. But this project, as this channel and the website and the podcasts and the books are all about making this practice, Nichiren's doctrine of Shakyamuni's teaching of the Lotus method, the support structure to inspire confidence, resolve in your practice, in our practice, right? I'm not so much interested in teaching the Surangama Sutra, for instance, or other teachings of Buddha. I talk about them. I have videos on this channel about them. But everything I do is in relation to our modern day practice of Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. And so that's my focus, and that's what this book's focus is. It's going to assume a knowledge base that you simply will have to fill in for yourself if you're unaware. Or, as I said, I'm perfectly willing to answer emails and talk about them in videos. But for a book, which is going to have global distribution, I want to focus this book on what we are doing in our modern practice. Does that make sense? And I'm not saying it's going to be totally perfect. I'm trying to include every term, but I'm hoping that you guys give me feedback on terms, and I don't want to dissuade you like the gentleman who suggested the kalpa. It's a great question. We got to talk about it. But now do you understand that to add that where do I draw the line then? This is an old term, and it's really just a conceptual term to help us expand our thinking from what we're used to, right? Familiar with. To break the boundaries of our habit energy. That's what words like kalpa are for. And most of the expedient means, or expedient, or what's the other name? Skills. Are they expedient skills? No, they're something else. Anyway, different translations, different words. That even illustrates my point, yeah? That what you name it and what it is are two different things. Understanding what it is much more important to the point than what it is labeled. But ultimately, there are some new concepts in the Lotus Sutra, some altered concepts in the Lotus Sutra. Those are the terms I want to catch and make sure we all are playing on the same field, right? Baseball rules don't work on the football field. They're both sports, games with a ball, but not the same. Yeah? All right. Enough blah, blah, blah on that. I hope that makes sense. And now I'm going to get back to reading from the first draft of the reference. We did Mandala. We did Gohonzon. Next term I have in this one is... we did Samsara. Engine of Life. That's one of mine. So I definitely have to define that. I'll see you there. Thank you for listening. Take care of your health. Be kind. Bye for now.